And that was our national anthem, sung in Creole, you know, commissioned sometime, I guess, last year in time for our 37th anniversary this year. And so, 100% Lucian, if you could sing this by heart without a paper in front of you. But more of that on another show. Right now, I want to share with you some statistics. In 2013, St. Lucia recorded 50 cases of rape. In 2014, we recorded 48 cases of rape. In 2015, the cases became more and more heinous and more indiscriminatory. We recorded 59 cases of rape. Between 2000 and 2010, that 10-year period, St. Lucia recorded 587 sex offenses in that 10-year period. Stunned? It's only going to get worse if we continue to pay lip service and not act and not raise our voices and not expect from our elected officials to take what we say to heart. We must take note from the constitutional review, how they just tossed it aside as if our voices meant nothing. But remember, the power is in your hands. This is an election year. We have to ring the alarm, not just to the cabinet, the cadre of ministers in our cabinet right now, but the hopefuls, the ones who want to come in, the ones sitting in the wings, the opposition parliamentary representatives. We have to ring the alarm loud and clear to them that crimes perpetrated against women are crimes perpetrated against a nation. Women are the cradle of society, and when you perpetuate a crime such as rape against one, it's not just one woman, it's an entire nation, it's an entire family, it's an entire community, it's an entire generation. Before we went on break, we were talking about how successful that you think the sex registry would be in terms of getting accepted by government.
Well, there's always hope in getting something meaningful done. We have looked at a number of scenarios, not too many. It can only go one way or the other. But regardless of how it goes, this process is another step forward, because the least that it can do is continue or encourage further discussion, encourage further awareness. And a big part, or the big part, the biggest part of fighting any crime is awareness that a crime exists. Awareness that something is being perpetrated which is against the law, and that something needs to be done about it. And too often we find that what will be considered as unlawful is passed away as something cultural. We see and too many people, if you want to look at, let's be realistic, at our Journée Creole, we say, oh, this is our culture, and this has been done for so many years, and nobody feels that there's anything wrong about the way little kids are dancing with each other. But the reason for that is because we have been so desensitized to what is going on that we don't even realize that we're perpetrating on ourselves our own demise. And that is a serious problem. We have to be introspective to realize and think critically, to evaluate ourselves. And as far as some people go, as far as too many people go, they're okay with it. It's no big deal, you know. One of the things we have to look at as well is this international Megan's Law and the US. In 2010, the General Accounting Office in the US reported that in 2008, 4,500 US passports had been issued to sex offenders, registered sex offenders. That was 8 years ago. How many of them have passports now and are looking to come down to the Caribbean? Our tourism marketing is tremendous. Sex offenders find that attractive too. And just as I was saying earlier, the jurisdictions or the countries where the laws are weaker are going to attract these offenders because it's easier for them to get around. But now the US has recognized what is happening in the global trade, the global sex trade, sex trafficking. They're informing us. So what are we going to do? It's obvious that this is going to happen. Are our elected officials going to find the will to do what is right? Or are they going to wait until we get to a crisis situation to respond in a frenzy?
When do you propose to present this petition to government?
Well, I have been here for the past week, and it's almost 2 weeks now, and the whole idea was to sensitize the population again, because we've been doing quite a bit of that last year. It's waned a bit as we continue doing more of our work in the background. Sometime towards the end of this week, we're looking forward to presenting the petition. We did have some slight hurdles with scheduling with elected officials. We're trying to work around that. And if it requires another week, we'll do that, because we've made a commitment to so many of the victims that have reached out to us.
And if that other week then goes in, because you know they're going to try to drag this as long as possible, and another week leads to another week, are there concrete plans to make them hear you?
Well, we thought of a number of different scenarios. Unfortunately, if it comes to the point where the people have to make their voices heard, then the people have to make their voices heard. Because the current situation as it exists in St. Lucia is no longer tenable. And we can't have responsible people coming on air repeating rehearsed statements which have no meaning anymore to the people, because we've heard them time and time again. When another rape occurs, different faces but the same script.
And it's getting worse. I mean, nobody's exempt. I mean, last year we had a 97-year-old great-grandmother who was raped, and we had 2 young girls who, in the prime of their lives, looking forward to a bright future, raped in their homes. Just this year, we had a young lady who was raped at work. You know, and they come, they're more emboldened. They come all more, more prepared. You know, so we really don't have the luxury of time. And I would hope that our officials would hear you and hear us, because you're really not speaking for yourself. You're really speaking for the thousands of voiceless women and potentially men as well who aren't coming out, who have been molested. This is your turn, your time, St. Lucia, to join in the conversation. You can give us a call. The number is on the screen, or you can send us your emails at newsmakerlive.ljp@gmail.com. Let us know how you feel. I certainly want to know. Don't you want to know? Join the conversation.
But you see, we also have to be even more alarmed, because although you quoted some statistics a few minutes ago, 500 or so during the past 10 years.
Hold this thought. We have a call.
Hi, good night.
Good evening. Thank you
Good
for calling
evening.
NewsMakerLive.
Yeah,
Laura,
this
you're on the air.
subject that's been discussed tonight is very important to me, and I'm very, very happy to hear this discussion going on this month. I'd also like to commend the gentleman for the work that the agency is doing. I mean, we have some serious issues of sexual abuse in this country. And one of the things I want to bring to the fore tonight is the whole issue of system engineering and process engineering in the public sector between human services, the family court, and the police in terms of how they handle these situations. I mean, there is a situation now, and I'm not going to refer to it, but I'm just saying, per chance, that there is a situation where a child is sexually abused, or the child raises and goes to report some sexual abuse to human services, would you believe that there is no proper system in place? I mean, there have been instances where the child did not get an immediate medical check. Okay? There have been cases where there is no financial aid in place, where there is never spaces at the homes to accommodate the child, where it takes up to 3 months to see a counselor or psychologist to debrief the child, where victims are sometimes taken out of the homes and placed in homes where they are still abused, be it verbally or physically, due to a lack of placement choices. There's no sync between the police, the family court, and the human services department. The human services department has no legal backing. When a child is removed, it's basically a cooperation between the alleged perpetrator and the department. The system is failing our young people, and I really hope that your agency will also seek to advocate for these young people, because I'm in the middle of a situation right now, and I'm going to be honest, I am very disappointed with the system we have. We need to advocate for a better system for our kids. I mean, these children are really suffering, and I mean, the children are getting into depression, they are wanting to commit suicide, and it's a whole list. And this is not only disrupting the lives of the victim, but everyone in the immediate community and around them, you know. And these perpetrators are left to walk the streets, you know, and again, because, you know, there's not a succinct system, when no immediate medical check is done and all these things, you know, at the end of the day, the police say to you, you know, how could you be sure whether or not that child was abused in the home or in the placement home or at the home? Because there's no system. When a child reports this thing, human services should have the resources and the facility to one time do a medical check. The police should be working closely with the system to allow for them to carry out proper reporting and case management. And also the family court needs to kick in right away. There's the perpetrators. I mean, in the cases where sometimes the children have one parent who's a perpetrator, the perpetrator is not liable to take care of the child in any way. And you take that child and you place that child in a home, God forbid the person takes in the child, you know, just to try to help the situation because the home never has space. Okay, that person is financially strapped. Sometimes that person gets depressed now and begins to take out the anger on the child, and then the child continues to get abused, and then the child wants to commit suicide, the child is getting depressed. I mean, this whole system is a mess. So it is a short-term project that I really want to undertake, and I really hope that your agency will pay some attention to this. The Ministry of Health, the Ministry of the Family Court, they need to get it right. Some process engineering, system engineering needs to take place in that sector. Something is wrong, and it is failing our children.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your call. Powerful comments there.
What she's saying here is a complaint that we hear not only associated with sex crimes or child molestation, it's pervasive throughout the justice system in St. Lucia. It's a broken system. There's a lot of problems with this system. A lot of the evidence which is required to prove these cases is now going to take even longer. We have a prison.
Just hold this thought. We have another call online. Thank you for calling NewsMakerLive with Laura. You're on the air.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good night.
Sorry, I think I have the wrong number.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes, so we're saying...
So what we have is cases or incidents that require evidence to prove. And we have a forensics lab which is not operational. What the reason is, I haven't been able to figure it out accurately. We've heard a number of pronouncements on how it's going to work properly, but that hasn't panned out for us. We have the court system, which is bursting at the seams. In fact, it's overflowing for years, for decades. We have a prison system that is currently housing more prisoners than it was expected to house. So at every turn, you find that in a system which is supposed to deal with the most heinous crimes against our young people and women, is unable to function properly, and when it tries to function, there has to be shortcuts because the system cannot operate properly. So you find not just a few, but many of these cases and many of the victims falling through canyons in the system. It's not cracks anymore. Instead of being the exception, it becomes the norm now. So people will tell you, oh, why waste your time to report that? And the statistics that you quoted earlier, they are high, but it is also reported that these types of incidents are only 10% reported.
Exactly.
So if you're talking about 500 cases, imagine 10 times that, we have 5,000.
Exactly. But listen to this. The global average rape per capita is 10 per 100,000 globally. 10 per 100,000 globally. That's the global average rape per capita. In St. Lucia, the average is 38 per 100,000. That was in 2009. And in 2010, it had climbed to 41. I dare not think what it is today.
So we're in a crisis situation.
Absolutely.
We're in a crisis situation. And if we had these numbers associated with tourism, somebody would be going crazy tonight. And as I was saying earlier, again, the success of our tourism industry was not an accident, and it is not an accident. It was because of dedicated, prolonged, and consistent work to get it where it is today. Our tourism economy is not what it was 20 years ago. Likewise, our crime situation, our child molestation situation, is not what it was 20 years ago. It's worse.
Absolutely.
So what are we doing to fix this?
We have another call. Thank you for calling NewsMaker Live with Laura. You're on the air.
Hi, good evening, Laura. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. I listened to this gentleman on Team Show today and tonight on your show again, and very important, good effort. But I need, whenever I call, I tell you we need to step back a little bit, and this problem goes way back into the homes. I understand we have to deal with the problems when people are raped, and how we monitor them, and how we want to put people's names out there, and how we want to deliver a list, yes. But what are we doing about educating those parents about the way we bring up our young ladies and our young boys in the community? Again, we have to get some programs into our schools. A lot of young people make children, and those children are not raised properly. We go into the human rights thing where a child, yes, must dress the way they feel like, and it's their right. While it's your right, it's also children's right to be responsible. And I think we need to echo that into the homes, way into the homes. Because when the child leaves those homes, they go to secondary school, they go to university, then we try and deal with the problem at that stage. And at that stage, it's a little bit late. At this stage, I don't want to blame governments. I don't want to blame the system. I need to blame the whole parental system. We've dropped the ball when it comes to our religious bodies taking hold of that. Our youth and sports organizations, our club life is not there anymore to monitor. We are no longer our brothers and our sisters' keepers. This is where the root of the problem. I think it is commendable that he's doing this. I must say that. But we need to just step back a little bit again and deal with the problems from our homes where it is rooted. And, that's my contribution. But I just want to say, Laura, in your preamble, I see nothing wrong, and this is just a joke on my side. I see nothing wrong in being 100% St. Lucian. I see nothing wrong in singing the national anthem in Creole. I'm proud to be 100% Creole.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that, sir. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when the national Creole, the national anthem in Creole is 2 seconds old, and in words that I personally can barely wrap my tongue around. I think it's very hypocritical for you now to tell me that because you can sing it, you 100% Lucian, alluding
I
that
don't think,
I
I
am
don't
not.
think
But
anybody
that's
said
not
because
what
they
the
can
show
sing.
is. But that's not what the show is about. Tonight, we will revisit this at a later date, and you will call, and we will have an extended discourse
100% said, Lucian. Thank you very much.
on that. But I think it's rather ridiculous to tell me that this is you're proud to be 100% Lucian, while we have kids and women and men and boys who are being raped, and you're telling me that it is a child's right to be responsible. A child's right is to be a child. Okay? A child's right is to be a child, to have a childhood, to grow up without fear of the persons whose responsibility it is to take care of them, to ensure that they have a light, carefree childhood. It's not their responsibility to be responsible for the actions of grown men and women. It is their right to be a child.
Well,
I don't think it is their responsibility or their right to be responsible for the actions of adults. I'm sorry, sir.
Well, I want to agree with the caller. I think I recognize the voice. I want to agree with the caller to a certain extent. It's all part of the problem that we have in St. Lucia. However, I tend to go beyond the simplistic level of just saying that the problem is in the household. Because what we have to realize, just as with crime, that you have cycles and you have age ranges. And fixing the crime problem that we have now is not going to happen in 1 year. It's not going to happen in 2 years.
Just all that thought. We have another call online. Thank you for calling NewsMakerLive with Laura. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I agree with you completely. To be completely honest, I've been through this, and I know how it is. My case was never trial. It never went to trial. And also, I wouldn't want my daughter to go through the same thing, and it has been a very big problem in my life. Okay? And so far, I cannot even find myself trusting people with my own kids. I always think something is going to happen, something is going to happen, something is going to happen. So I rush every day. I'm always thinking constantly, always asking them questions, always want them to sleep around me. And that is a problem in my relationship because I don't sleep properly when I'm not around them. You know what I tell you?
Okay,
and nothing was done. So I know how it feels seeing that person and moving away from that person and knowing that that person is still alive. I had to leave where I used to be and come somewhere else, and it's still haunting me till this day. Okay? I have 3 kids, and I have 1 daughter, 2 boys, and I'm so fearful. Going to work every day, being around other people.
Hello? I think we lost the call.
Very much.
Oh, she's still there. Thank you so much for your contribution. And this is so heartrending. I mean, this affects not just the point in time of where the crime is perpetrated, but it continues throughout the rest of your life.
But you see, too many times we hear exactly what this last caller was saying. They make the reports, they go to the authorities, whoever they are, whether it's social services, whether it's the police, and nothing happens. And what you find happening is that the victims and the people associated with them become more and more despondent. They become less trusting of the system. They have no confidence. And when even more serious things happen, they don't waste their time to report it because something's not going to happen right.
Absolutely. Last year, I came across a case where this child, about maybe between 10 and 12, kept running away for years. The child is only about 10 or 12, and he's been running away from home time and time again. The mom was unable to take care of her, so she sent her, because she was blind and incapacitated, so she sent her to relatives. She lived in the north, and she sent her to relatives in the south. Child kept continuing to run away, and the police would get her and bring her right back. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a child who's 12 years old, running away from a home, and you keep putting her back in the same situation, and
she runs away
and she runs away again, and you take her and you put her back in the situation, and when she runs away to the same home. These people are not blood relatives, and they don't know her, and she keeps running away to that. Then I did some investigation, and then I found out that that child was perhaps being abused at home, but certainly being molested where she was running to. We have our final call online. Thank you for calling NewsMaker Live with Laura. You're on the air.
Yep.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I'm on the air right now?
Yes, you're on the air.
Okay. Hi. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm very happy to see you have this program this evening, because I think it is very important for St. Lucian people to take a look and listen carefully to what is being said. However, I have something to add to this. The children that are being raped or abused really have no power. It's the adult or the perpetrator is the one who is committing this crime, and this can cause a lot of problem for the children because it ruins life. What I think we need right now is to have an advocate for the children and also for the women and children, whoever is being assaulted or who have been victims of this type of crime. I call it a crime because it is a crime. And the other part of this is, I believe it is highly time that the people understand that it affects the children in a very big way because it ruins lives. And believe me, something has to be done. Otherwise, we are going to have a broken society.
We already have a broken society. But thank you so much for your call, your contribution.
You're very welcome.
Good
night.
Good night. And and she says we will have, but we already have.
We already do.
But back to the story I was telling you earlier. When I investigated and I asked, but okay, if this person is sexually molesting this child, couldn't we take this person to task and go through? And they said, you know what? Unless that child says yes, and that more often than not, those children are so traumatized that they will say nothing unless that child says yes. The most that can be done is the person who is aiding and abetting the child in running away is fined $50. $50, and they get away to do it again.
But you see,
again.
but you see, we constantly hear the argument that we are a small country and we have limited resources. That doesn't change the story. That doesn't change the molested children. It doesn't change. And so what we have to realize is that we are a small country with rapists. Absolutely. We are a small country with child molesters. Do we just throw up our hands into the air and say, we're small, we can't do anything? And as the caller earlier that I was addressing said, it comes from the home. That is true. But the home or the family is a part of the society.
Exactly.
And that home functions within the other functions of the society. Now, Zandoli is not really interested in becoming too political about this. Mm-hmm. But we will become political because child molestation, rape, and all other ailments that affect our society is a political issue, it's a sporting issue, it's a religious issue, it's a community issue. It has to be dealt with from all levels of society. And I find that too many people are afraid to say, are afraid to be labeled political. And it's the politicians and the political machinery which is in place to protect the people of the country. And this is an election year, and I think it is high time that St. Lucians, instead of accepting manifestos or promises from political parties on what they want, that we don't only wait during election time to hear what's going to happen for us. I think the people need to, throughout the elected term, tell the government and tell their representatives what they want. It is time to lobby. It is time to hold their feet to the fire. Every week, we hear that our elected officials have Constituency Day. Do they really interact with the constituents on a meaningful level? Do the constituents really tell them what they want, what really affects them, other than, boss, I need a job, boss, give me $10, you know, boss this and boss that? Do we really have intellectual, meaningful discussions with our constituents? Does Constituency Day just consist of hanging out in the society hall or the bar or the club and making a few rounds? I'm not saying that happens. I'm just asking, because the quality of these constituency days is what dictates and is what will bring the results by listening to the people. Now, what we need to ask ourselves is, why is the household or the family unit failing in St. Lucia? Since the caller said that the problem is in the household, the family values, the family ties. But what we have to also realize is that our elected officials, whichever ones they are, have said, have promised, have taken the oath that they will serve and protect the people of St. Lucia. So what are they doing? What are they doing to make things better for the people of St. Lucia? That is the question we need to ask, because during the campaign season, whether it's this one or last election cycle or the one before or whenever, they promised to do better. Not only better than those who may have been there before them, but better than they themselves did before. Because it should be a learning process. Absolutely. It should be a bettering process. Absolutely. Of the whole government system. And what we need to see is that our elected officials have promised to serve us. What are they doing to serve us? That is the important thing. What are they doing to address? You know, they can say we're doing all of this in the background and things are going to happen, but year in and year out, we see these rapes become more violent, become more heinous. Absolutely. We hear of more abhorrent cases of child molestation. So we need to ask our representatives what they are doing for us, because we're not seeing the results of anything changing over decades. There's always been the anecdotal evidence of this one doing that, and communities come up and people in there will tell you, they know this guy down there. Oh, watch your kids over there. But what are we doing? What is happening? Talking about the psychological or the values of the family, our elected officials are supposed to be perceptive enough to see what we need in those societies, whether it be jobs, whether employment, whether roads, facilities. They also have to recognize, hey, the country is going the wrong way psychologically.
We're running out of time. Well, we're out of time already. But I just wanted to make a comment here on what you said about they need to be perceptive enough. But perception be damned, they need to listen. They need to hear and they need to accept what the people say. Don't just take it and toss it aside because it comes from a secondary source. a source speaking, being the vessel for the people, and toss it aside as not coming from the people. It has happened to us before. It has happened in our constitutional review where it was just tossed aside and said, this does not reflect the will of the people. St. Lucians, you need to stand up. You need to rise up. You need to let your voice be heard, that this is a scourge which affects our society. This is a scourge which not just affects us individually or our families as a unit, but our entire communities, our individual communities, our country as a whole. A generation is being affected by this. I want to thank you, Mr. Williams, for coming and talking to us a little bit about this. Your initiative to start off the sex offenders registry, and I really hope that they listen, that they hear, and that the people are not moved to doing something more drastic. You know, they oftentimes ask us to be peaceful, and when we are peaceful, they don't hear us. We sometimes have to shout and to shake up a few things, ruffle a few feathers for us to be heard. But I applaud you for this. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I wish we had another hour to discuss, you know, at length more what it is you're trying to do. And hopefully we get another chat sometime later on to discuss even further what has happened since this last show. This is it for another episode of NewsMaker Live with Laura. I thank you for calling. I thank you for viewing. And I'll see you again next week where we highlight yet another aspect of women's lives. Thank you for staying tuned.